So let me go to Sherry Johnson and her technology segment for our show. Sherry's going to be talking about cutters and CNC machines. Sherry, welcome.
Thank you. This evening I think it's going to be exciting. The tools that we're going to take a look at are, to me, fun. I like fun tools, fun machines. So let me get this going here. Last week we had a brief introduction to different cutting machines, and this week we're going to delve in depth with craft cutters and CNC machines. Now, craft cutters initially got their start in life as the big, huge vinyl cutters. They used these in the old-fashioned print shops. There might still be a few around, but they used to cut the big vinyl signs and the big vinyl pieces that you saw hanging on windows. And they basically used sharp knives or sharp hobby knives. And back in the old days, people would actually sit there and manually control these things to cut. Well, now, with the computers, of course, you can draw what you want cut and have the machine do it for you. Most of the craft cutters that are on the market can cut a huge variety of things. You can cut material, cardstock, paper, fabric, thin wood, plastic. Most of them, the new machines can actually cut materials up to 3 millimeters thick, which is pretty thick for a small machine that's using a hobby knife. Most of them also have an attachment where next to the blade, you can actually put a pin in there so that you could actually draw on your particular object versus cut, or you can cut and draw at the same time. This is kind of cool. It kind of works like an old-fashioned pen plotter when you put the pin in there. They also have blades that emboss, which I've done this with cardstock and used the embossing head to actually put indents and create brick out of craft paper. So these cutting machines are very, very, you can use them in a lot of different ways. I mentioned that you use them on your computer. And again, one of the reasons we started the series with the CAD software is because, again, you need to create your vector image in one of the CAD programs, one of the 2D ones. You export that out as an SVG. The cutter software, you upload that, you take a look at it, set the machine up, you cut the material, you weed out the unwanted pieces, and we'll see in the little video, I'll show you what that weeding means. And once it's cut, you can do whatever you want with it. The two most common craft cutters out there are, of course, the Cricut, which was first to market, and the Silhouette has come out a few years later. Both of them to me are comparable. I've now on my second Cricut, because I used the first one extensively and I actually wound up burning it out. I used it so much. And they're great. They're great for cutting. I use it mostly for cutting plastic. When we first did our 1950s bus kit, I was cutting the windows out by hand and it was taking me 30 to 40 minutes. My spousal unit said, let's go get a craft cutter. And I'm glad she said that because I went and got it. And I can now cut a whole sheet of 6 sets of windows in 2.5 minutes. Great machines. New to the market is one that's really cool. And I have yet to see a demo of this, but Brother has come out with something they call the Scan and Cut. The other two, you have to draw what you want in a CAD program and upload it. With the Brother, they're saying that you can take something that you've drawn on paper or something that you've seen on paper, scan it into the machine, and it has a built-in display. It's not a very big display, but it has a built-in display. You can update what you want cut, and it will cut directly from the machine without having to use the computer. You can use, they have a software so that you can draw things, but I thought this scanning part was very interesting because there's a lot of things where I would love to be able to take something without having to recreate it and just scan it and have it cut. And again, the machine has gone crazy here. Hold on just a moment. Let me get back to where I need to be. There we go. Little demonstration here of the Cricut. This is going to show you the machine, and it's going to show you the 3 different types of standard blades that you can get. The first one is a round blade, which is good for cutting material, thin things that could bunch, or if you use a knife, might snag. with the cutting wheel, it cuts it very, very smooth. Here you can see they have the pin attachment so that they can actually draw as well as cut at the same time. And here they're peeling away stuff, and that's kind of what weeding is. Here they're using a regular cut blade, which is a little thin, teeny tiny knife, and they're cutting this out. And again, they peeled away or weeded out the stuff they didn't want. And here they're doing this on sticker material. So if you were trying to do labels, you could actually cut your label and put it and stick it right onto something. Here they're showing where we can cut materials that are up to 3 millimeter thick. This is a thin balsa wood, and they're using what they call the deep cut blade to make these cuts. I've cut up to 2 millimeters thick. I haven't gotten brave enough to try 3 yet, but my machine is old too. That's so cool. This is like a poor man's CNC machine. These machines average in price between $200 to $300. Cricut actually makes a portable one, the junior one, which is actually under $100. Next up are the CNC machines. Now these, I want one. Remember, I mentioned earlier, somebody could gift me one if they want to. You know, we've got Amazon Prime days going here. But these versus using a blade actually use a drill bit, basically, like you would put on a router. And you're all probably familiar with those type of bits. And CNC machines can cut, they can drill, you can set them up so they work like a lathe and can cut. These, you do need the computer to draw what you want to do, and then it has a special software that actually controls the CNC machine to actually make the cuts. There are several out there, more than I thought when I did my research, but most fall into the category of 3-axis or 5-axis, which basically defines the range of motion. And we're going to see a slide on that in just a moment. Some of the CNC machines actually offer the option of a clamp-on laser module, so you could expand it in the future to be a laser cutter, which we're going to discuss laser cutters at the end of the month with a demonstration by Bob Davidson, so that's going to be interesting. Now, these degrees or these axes, what are they? Well, we've got X, Y, and Z. Basically, your X direction goes left and right, your Y direction goes forward and backwards, and your Z direction goes up and down. Because in order to get that drill bit down into something, or that router bit, you've got to be able to move it up and down to get it into your material. These are by far the simplest. You can cut, drill holes. I've used these, or I've seen these used to put holes in circuit boards. They're really cool. The 3-axis machines are what you're going to see for most home use because they are cost effective. You can get some right now, Amazon Prime, some are less than $200 for small format. You can get some for under $1,000 that are large format. They're pretty easy to operate. Software is easy to use. They're low maintenance, and they're pretty high accurate once you learn how to deal with kerf and all that other funky stuff when you start cutting wood. Disadvantages, you're kind of limited to just, your X and Y and then moving up and down on thin materials. They say 5-axis machines are more efficient, and that's true because they can continuously cut things where here you have to raise up and go down and move over. And we're going to see a little demonstration of that right here, where we've got just a simple one that's cutting a lot of different materials. And mostly the drill bits, or the router bits, if you will, are going to determine what materials that you can actually cut with them. And you can see here, these things make nice, smooth, once you get rid of all the dust, cuts. Yeah, definitely, that's on my Christmas wish list. The 5-axis machines also operate in the X, Y, and Z, but in addition, they can spin around each one of those axes. So besides going in the Y direction, they can spin around in the Y direction, which is really cool because this gives us a unique effect when we start looking at how we can cut things and mill things and grind things down in a continuous fashion. There are advantages. They're more efficient because you can spin around and up and down in all different directions at one time. They're more accurate because they can move along 5 different axes without having to change any tools. They can produce a large different types of geometry, where the 3 axis, you're kind of limited to what you can do. The 5 can do all sorts of things. The disadvantage, they're expensive. This is not going to be in my wish list anytime soon. If I do, I'm going to wind up getting divorced. They also require more training and more advanced software because of the different ways the motors are going to make the different cuts on material. And because of the way they cut and the amount of material they cut, they require a lot more maintenance, a lot more oiling and greasing and cleaning to make sure that they don't break down. And here we've got a sample of a 5-axis, and you can see here it's going around in circles. It's going to be going up and down and back and forth and spinning around. And it just amazes me how these work. And here you can see where it tilts, and you're working in all the different axes. I'm not sure what that plural is, but you can do a whole bunch of them. And you can see it here as it spins and it moves. Needless to say, with all of these machines, the CNC machines, you want to make sure that you're in a well-ventilated area. You have dust collectors because these are going to create a lot of debris and dust. The 5-axis machines are usually in enclosed housings. The 3-axis machines don't really require that because stuff isn't spinning, but I recommend it because it's just safer. Especially if you're like me and you have cats and dogs that like to roam around and assist in the workplace. Having them enclosed is much better. And you can see here with this video, it shows the rough cut on the left and how smooth it did all that cutting on the right. And it did it with the one bit, and it just spun it around all those axes. Love these machines. Now, next week or next meeting, we are going to see how laser cutters work. That's our 6th type CNC machine, where we cut things without touching the material. And Bob Davison is going to do that presentation for us. So I'm looking forward to that. I think that's going to be very exciting as well. All right. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions for Sherry?
Yeah, Sherry, you're talking about the 5-axis being so expensive. Are we talking, a small car or a big car or a or a pickup truck?
We're talking anywhere from small car to really tricked out pickup truck.
Okay.
You can get a 5-axis for around 15 to 20,000 used, but they go up from there because they are really specialized. If you're going to start out, you're definitely going to be looking at a 2-axis machine. Yeah, there you go. 29, 30. Yeah.
Wow.
That's for a small 5-axis machine. And that's Alibaba. So, that's going to be probably the lowest price you're going to find.
Yeah. All right.
So
Thanks.
Welcome.
So Sherry, what's an average modeler? What's he need that kind of machine to do? Why would I need that?
You wouldn't. I would say the 3-axis machine is pretty much what we're going to look at, unless you start carving statues and figures and things like that, which I would say do that with a 3D printer. We're really not going to need a 5-axis machine, because if you want to cut a building or a building face or tracks or ties or things that are basically 3-dimensional but cut from a 2-dimensional plane, you're going to need the 3-axis machine, and that's the one that I'm going to try and purchase in the near future, is one of those.
So how many thousands of dollars are you looking at for 3-axis?
3-axis, you can start for around $200, depending upon how large a footprint you get, and if you want it enclosed or not enclosed, they go up to there. But you can get a really good machine, high-end, enclosed with a large footprint, for less than $5,000.
So if I was looking for one, what brand would I look for, in your opinion?
Right now, there's really no one brand that stands out, and there's so many out there that basically use the same stepper motors and the same software. I know the Genitsu, I think that's how you pronounce it, is the one that I'm looking at. GNTSU. They have a very good reputation, a lot of different bits, a lot of support, a lot of different size machines. They're available on Amazon, and the one that I'm looking at is in the $500 to $600 range, because that's all I need, because again, I make small stuff. Our O scale guys and G scale, you might want to look at a larger format, but the smaller formats are going to be good for the rest of us. Yep, there you go. All right, so I left out an M in there. So yeah, this is a great machine. Like I said, this is the one that I'm interested in looking at. So
Anybody have any more questions? Sherry, thank you so very much.
you're
We
welcome.
really appreciate it. Outstanding information. Thank you.
Right. In the meantime, I'm just going to relegate myself to my craft cutter. So enjoy, folks.
I understand.